What is the difference between stored procedures and functions? At least three. Undoubtedly, this is the most important questions in SQL. Make sure that you can remember at least three differences. So let's start. See, this is a basic and simple stored procedure here, which is having one in parameter and one output parameter. Okay. Then inside we are inserting the data in the table employee. And down here is a basic function. See, it has only input parameters and always returning some value here. Now let's see the differences between them one by one. First difference is SP may or may not return a value, but functions must return a value. See, function always return value, but SP can be used to insert, update or delete data also. It may or may not return. Second difference is SP can have input output parameters both, but function only have input parameters. See, there is output parameter in stored procedure but no output parameter in function. Next difference is we can call functions inside a SP, but we cannot call SP from a function. Sometimes inside a SP you may need to call a function. For example, I have created a function to split a string based on comma. Okay, so one string I will get and based on the comma I will split that. For that I will create a function. Now function will return the list of the values like splitted values. That function I can call in many stored procedures. So basically it's like the reusability, but yes, inside the function you cannot call the stored procedure. Okay. Next difference is we cannot embed or use SP in SQL statements like select, insert, update, delete, merge, etc. But yes, we can embed or use them in functions like this. For example, here select star comma dbo.fn country. Here in this SQL statement, fn country is a function here, okay, which is the advantage of function, but like it can be used with the queries also like this. But we cannot write select like this with the stored procedures. Another difference is we can use try catch exception handling inside SPs, but we cannot use try catch inside the functions. Then one last difference is we can use transactions inside SPs, but we cannot use transactions inside the function. So that's it. That's are I think the enough differences. Please make sure to remember at least three of them, whichever three I think you whichever you think is clear to you. Okay. How to optimize a stored procedures or a SQL query? This is a performance related question. Many things you can do say here, but I will point 6 very important things which you can do to improve the performance of a stored procedure. Okay. So first is when you run an insert or update query in SQL Server, then you have seen multiple messages like this. One row affected multiple times, right? So basically inside a SP there is no need of these messages, right? And these messages displaying is basically impacting the performance slightly. So to avoid these messages, use set no count on at the top of the stored procedure. This will then not write these messages and therefore it will save some memory. Second thing we can do is specify column names instead of using asterisk in select statements. See the incorrect way and the correct way below it. Make it a practice. If you need all the columns, write all the columns, but rarely you will need all the columns, right? So basically you have to write the names of the columns and avoid this asterisk sign. The next thing for performance improvement is use schema name before the object or the table names. See here I used DBO, which is the schema name. If you have multiple databases, then use the database name instead of DBO. Okay, that will improve performance. Otherwise, first the query will try to find the right database, which is again like performance heavy, right? Next thing we can do to improve performance is with if conditions, use exists instead of count like shown here. Okay. Then use transactions when required only. Okay, do not overuse it in your SPs. Transactions are secure, but they are performance heavy. So if not required, then do not use them. Then the last point to improve the performance is do not use dynamic queries. Like it's like from the security perspective, okay? Dynamic queries are vulnerable to SQL injections. So avoid to use dynamic queries in your stored procedures. Now there are many more things for performance, but I'm keeping it short and crisp, and so that it is easy to remember. What is a cursor? Why to avoid them? Let's first understand the cursor working quickly, okay? It's a 5-step process. First, declare the cursor with the cursor name and the select query for which cursor will iterate. Now, if you see the definition of the cursor, a database cursor is a control which enable traversal iteration over the rows or the records in the table. So this is the table or select statement in this example over which cursor will iterate. Okay, so this will justify the definition. Second step is open the cursor like this. Third step, fetch each row record from the cursor using the while loop, and with each row or iteration you can do any kind of operation here. Like here I am printing product name and list price with each iteration. Okay, that is the main purpose of cursor, fetching each row and perform some logic then inside each row. After that task is done, next step is to close the cursor because its work is over, and the last step is to deallocate the cursor from the memory. Now, steps are not generally asked, but it's good to know them, right? These are the 5 steps mentioned here. Maybe later you need it for revision. The next part of the question is why we should avoid the use of the cursor. What are the limitations of the cursor? The answer is a cursor is a memory resident set of pointers, meaning it occupies lots of memory from your system, which is basically not good for the performance. So if possible, avoid the use of cursor. But if some logic is not possible otherwise without cursor, then yes, you can use cursors there. Now great, now I think you know the role of cursors now. What is the difference between scope underscore identity and double identity? Now before the differences, let's see the similarity first. Both these are used to get the last value generated in the identity column of the table. Okay, we have the identity column, most of the time it is primary key, right? So these both scope identity and identity, like you can use these inside some stored procedure to get the identity which has been increased. Okay, so now the difference is double identity function returns the last identity value generated within the current session regardless of the scope. Now here session means this will return a value generated by an insert statement like a trigger, stored procedure, or batch of SQL statements. See the way this is the way we get the last identity from this select identity. Okay, now the problem with identity is if insert query will be performed by trigger and stored procedure at the same time, then this select identity can give different results. Okay, so this is not the so reliable way to use. Okay, the more reliable is scope underscore identity. The scope underscore identity function returns the last identity generated in the same session and the same scope. Now in this SP trigger batch, all the last value generated will be in sync. Okay, so whether you are inserting from stored procedure or trigger or batch, but when you will select scope underscore identity like this, then you will get the one value, single value. Okay, so therefore this scope underscore identity is more reliable. Mostly as I already explained, and scope underscore ID function is used inside the stored procedures. So that is the answer of this question. What is CTE in SQL Server? Let's first see a simple CTE first, and then we will conclude the definition from that. See the query. Here engineers is the CTE name. Now engineers will contain the data which we get from this select query. Okay, now this is the CTE body. Okay, now where to use this engineer city? Okay, we get the data in the engineer city, but where to use? Like this, See, we are using the engineer city as a table or view. So similarly, like we put select query with the tables, we are putting the select query with the CTE also. So sometimes we need this in some scenarios. It's like a bit similar to temporary tables, but it is more beneficial than temporary tables, as you do not have to allocate and deallocate memories for CTEs. Like you have to like deallocate memories, deallocate temporary tables, right? So at the end, the definition is: a common table expression is a temporary named result that you can reference within a select, insert, update, or delete statement. In the example here below, we are using CTE engineers with this select query, but similarly the CTE name can be used with insert, update, or delete queries also. I hope now you get the answer. What is the difference between delete, truncate, and drop commands? This is a very important question, and in many interviews this question has been asked. So I have compared all these three together here. So first we will see their queries. See, delete is used with where condition, whereas truncates and drop do not need where condition. Now you can also use delete without where condition. That time it will delete all the rows of the table. Now see the differences. The first difference is delete is a DML. Okay, just for reminder, insert, update, and delete are DMLs, means data manipulation language. These are used for manipulating the data in your tables. Okay, whereas create, alter, and drop are DDLs, means data definition language. These are used to define the table structure. Okay, so again, delete is a DML, whereas truncate and drop are DDLs. Second thing is delete is used to delete one or all rows from the table based on where condition. So where condition is very important here, but it will never delete schema or structure of the table. Whereas truncate is used to delete all the rows from the tables without where condition, but it will also again not delete the schema or structure. On the other hand, drop command is used to delete all the rows from the table with the structure and schema, meaning drop will remove the whole existence of the table from the database, but delete and truncate will only remove the data. The table structure columns will be there without the data. Now the last difference is delete command can be rollbacked, but truncate and dropped cannot be rollbacked. Okay, so these are like the three differences between these three commands. Anyone can ask like, what is the difference between delete and truncate or drop, or delete or drop? But now you are able to answer what is the difference, right? How to get the nth highest salary of an employee? This is a very important question. Interviewer can ask second, third, fourth, any highest salary. Okay, now there are many ways to do it, and I will try to show you one of them. Suppose we have a list of salary here like this, and suppose we are looking for the third highest salary. So in this case 6,000 is the third highest salary we need as the output. Okay, first the logic is first select top 3 salaries in descending order. This is the query, and this will be the result, which is like top 3 salaries in descending order, right? Our output 6,000 you can see at the bottom. So now we have to reverse this list. For that, put this result in result and then do order by salary in ascending order like this. Now see, this is the query and this is the result here. Basically nothing special, we are just reversing the previous result in ascending order now. Now last part is very easy. Just select the top 1 salary from the result set. See, this is the final query with the top 1 result, top 1 statement, and in the result you will get the third highest salary. So basically first you should try to remember the logic step by step, and then you can remember the syntax. And even if you don't remember the syntax, you can explain like, okay, first we will do this, then we will do this, and then we will do this. I think that can also work. So yes, there are other ways to do it, and you can find on Google like for other solutions also, but yes, this is one of the way. What are acid properties? This can be a very big topic, but I will try to answer what you have to tell to the interviewer, what you have to remember. Okay, So first thing is asset properties are used when you are handling multiple transactions in SQL Server. For example, multiple inserts in a table are happening at the same time, same point of time. Okay, then how you will manage to maintain the data integrity? So first is here A in the asset stands for atomicity, means inside a transactions either all SQL statement execute or none should execute. Okay, so if you have a SP, then inside that SP either all statements should execute or none should execute. This is good, right? Otherwise data integrity problem will be there. Second character of asset is C, and which is C stands for consistency, means all data inserting or updating should be of valid data type and follow the rules and constraints defined. So whatever data you are trying to enter in your tables should follow the constraints. If it's a not null constraint of it, it's a primary key constraint, it's a unique constraint, so your data should follow those rules. Okay, that is consistency. Third character of asset properties is I. I stands for isolation, meaning one transaction should not affect another transaction. So if one user inserting data in one table, then that must not impact other user transaction, like other user also trying to insert some data in that table. So both these two things should happen in an isolated way. Now, because every transaction must be isolated and independent. Last from asset property is D. D stands for durability. What is durability? Meaning inserted or committed data must not be lost even if there is a power failure. Whatever is committed, right? So these are the important things which you have to follow when you are doing the transactions in your table. So in short, when you are designing your database, then you have to keep these properties in your mind. What are magic tables in SQL Server? The name is magic tables because we do not have to code anything for them. They happen magically in the background. Okay, so see the definition first. Magic tables are the temporary logical tables that are created by the SQL Server whenever there are insertion, deletion or update operations. Okay, so for example, whenever an insert query runs, then in the background SQL Server create one magic table and that is called inserted. So that we will discuss. Now there are two types of magic tables which are very simple. Like first is inserted. When any insert query will be executed, then the recently inserted row get added to the inserted magic table. So this inserted magic table is maintained by the SQL Server. Okay. Similarly, another magic table is deleted. When any delete query executed, then the recently deleted row gets added to the deleted magic table. Now you will say, what about the update query? So in update query, the updated row gets stored in the inserted magic table, the new updated row, right? And the old row, like the previous row before updation, will be stored in the delete magic table, right? So there is one row before the updation which will be in the deleted, and the new row after the updation will be in the inserted magic table. I hope you got it. And at last the question is when to use magic tables. The use of magic tables are like with the triggers, and this is important from the DBA point of view, but for developers this much information is enough to know.